What's up, Thrive Nation? It's Dr. Tiana here. Just checking in with y'all for our weekly check-in, Thrive Nation Inspiration. And if you are new to our community, welcome. I'm so glad that you found us and you are joining in community with us. So I am Dr. Tiana. I'm the CEO of Mended Hope. I'm a coach, mentor, and life strategist, helping high impact women strengthen their resilience, overcome life disruption, and strengthen their walk with God. And today I'm coming on just to talk a little bit about 3 clues that will help you know if you are growing beyond a life disruption. Okay, so at Mended Hope, our program, our Thrive Academy, which is a personal and professional development program for high impact women seeking to overcome disruption or just seeking to gain more clarity and confidence in their life and have a greater impact, right? So we talk a lot about life disruptions and how we build resilience, which we define resilience as the ability to persevere despite adversity or despite challenge, right? And so, as you know, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? Like life happens to all of us, and we all at some point in our lives will experience a disruption that will cause us to pause, and sometimes even cause us to question if God really loves us, right? So if that has been your experience, know that you are not alone. We are all walking out this thing called life and taking the bumps and the bruises as they come. So I want to today share with you 3 clues for how you can know if you are growing or moving beyond your life disruption, okay? And today I'm going to use my life as an example of this, just to give you kind of something that is happening or has happened in real time, okay? So the number 1 clue that you are growing beyond your life disruption is that you're starting to respond versus react. Okay. So in theory, right? Responding versus reacting is like the perfect ideal thing to do, right? But in practice, you know, just as well as I know, that can be more difficult, right? So in my situation with being diagnosed with breast cancer in my early 30s, with no family history, it was a major life disruption, right? And it caused me to be like, you fill in the blank, right? And the reality is that it knocked me off center. It caught me off guard, and it was not something that I was expecting, right? And one of the things that helped me know that I was moving and growing through this disruption was that I started to respond, and by responding, I started to make decisions that allowed me to take my power back. I started to understand and take inventory about what are the things that I can control, what are the things that are outside of my control, and also allowing God to fill in the gaps, right? So we often, forget about that part. And I will say that the day that I was diagnosed with breast cancer, my husband and I were sitting down just talking about, what we were going to do, because there were so many decisions to make around treatment, around fertility preservation, around everything, all the things. And we were overwhelmed, to be honest, we were overwhelmed. It was a moment of overwhelm. But we were able to immediately respond to this news by getting scripture. We both chose 3 or 4 scriptures each that we felt would help anchor us through this journey, because we were very clear and we understood that we were about to go through a storm, right? A major life disruption. And so we found scripture that would help anchor us, that would help strengthen our spirits and we invited our community to rally with us around these scriptures, right? So if you are new to our community, you can actually go to our website, mendedhope.org, and across the top, I believe it's on the far right, there is a Team Thrive tab, and you can click on that and it will show you all of the Team Thrive scriptures. And so if you're going through a life disruption, feel free to use the scriptures that we have or that we use, or modify it, make it your own. Okay, so that is my investment in you, because I believe in you and I want you to be able to respond and not just react when faced with the life disruption, right? We want you to grow through this, okay? So that's number one. Number two is you're able to reframe your disruption as a means to redirect your life rather than framing it as a personal deficit. Okay, so this one's a little bit more, I guess, abstract, right? Theoretical, right? So I'm going to break this down for you. So for me, right, being diagnosed with breast cancer, me being able to reframe it and come to the conclusion that, no, I don't know why I got breast cancers. No, the doctors don't know why I got breast cancer. We did genetic testing. We did all of the things. They don't know why I got breast cancer in my early 30s, again, with no family history, right? And at the time I was eating more of a vegan diet. I have always worked out, so that has not changed in my life since I was in college. So it was just we don't know, right? However, I was able to take that and just, instead of saying, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me, I have breast cancer, doomsday is here, right? No, instead, I made a decision that I didn't know why. And I wasn't going to let my life stop because I wanted to get an answer to the why. What I did decide was, what do I know, right? And I knew that it was not an indication of God's faithfulness or his goodness. And so I knew that I didn't have breast cancer because God was not good, right? And so you may too find yourself in this situation where you're like, this is terrible. And the reality is, it is terrible. and life disruptions usually are pretty painful, right? And however, you can still decide how you want this to be framed and how you look at it, and you can still use it in a way that will strengthen you and will allow you to continue to move forward, okay? So that is it. Reframing it. Reframing it is about taking your power back, deciding how you are going to look at the situation. And in totality, we would like to encourage our women in Thrive Nation to look at the situation from, what does God say? What is the truth? Right? And being anchored in that truth is so important, regardless of the circumstances and regardless of how you feel, right? That is part of maturing in your faith. That's part of strengthening your walk and your relationship with the Lord, is obeying his commands and moving towards his promises despite what it looks like. Okay, that is faith, right? And faith is active. It is an active thing. It requires us to move, right? So you're going to move forward and you're going to decide to reframe your situation. So if you're starting to do that and you're starting to recognize, wow, this is really terrible, but I also see there's still so many blessings, or this could be a blessing in disguise, right? That is where you're growing through it. You're growing through it. So I'm so happy for you if that is you, right? So that's number 2, reframing. Number 3 is you're starting to learn more about your disruption, okay? You're taking action on the things that can improve your situation or your outcomes. So in my situation with breast cancer, getting diagnosed with breast cancer, it was one of those things where it was like, okay, I'm a researcher. in case you guys don't know, by trade. So I'm a PhD, not MD. So I prescribe perspective and not prescriptions, okay? So with that, because I'm a researcher, everything needs to be defined. I need to know all of the ins and outs. I need to understand what the research says about this, right? And so immediately I started connecting with colleagues that I knew did breast cancer research. My husband is a cancer researcher as well. So I was able to have an in-house advocate, someone who understood what I was going through, someone who understood what my options are, someone who knew the questions to ask as I was going through treatment and making these decisions. Because when you are diagnosed with breast cancer, the process it moves very quickly, and you have to make very decisive decisions about your future. And it was very important for me to make decisions that I would not regret. Okay, because me personally, I'm an Enneagram 1, and so I at times struggle with regret. I want to make sure that I'm making the right and the most wise decisions, right? So I have to collect all the data, right, before I do a little synthesis and come up with a conclusion. And so for this step, or this clue, right, where you're learning, that was like all I did for at least the first month of just researching, reading articles, talking to people, reading blogs. I did join a few like breast cancer support groups. I left them immediately just because they were doomsday type of groups. And it like one of the groups, as soon as I was approved in the group and I read, like, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 comments, and it shocked my spirit and it discouraged me. And so I said, absolutely not. Left the group, and I have not been in a breast cancer group since then, right? I'm not saying that a breast cancer group is not your thing or is not maybe the best option for you. That's totally for you to decide. What I am saying is that in my desire to use wisdom and to listen to myself, it was not a conducive environment to help me anchor in my faith and to believe God for complete and total healing. Okay, so I started learning as much as I could learn about breast cancer. I started learning about all of the disparities that exist between Black women and white women, and how women that are in their 20s and early 30s are starting to get breast cancer at higher rates than any other race, right? I also started learning that the mortality rates, or the death rates, for Black women under 40 who are getting breast cancer are continuing to climb, and there's a huge gap between how many Black women die who are diagnosed with breast cancer versus how many white women die who are diagnosed with breast cancer. And so while for some people that may be overwhelming and discouraging, for me as a researcher, it was important that I understood what the odds were. It was important that I understood what the differences were in treatment and care, what do you call it? They call it like, I guess it's recovery, but it's like after life, post breast cancer treatment. All of survivorship is kind of the research term, right? So I wanted to understand, all of those complexities, and I wanted to be knowledgeable. And I will tell you this, getting information and having the knowledge yourself will help you feel more empowered to make decisions that align with your values, right? And your priorities, because there's so much Google junk, right? It's like you generally don't have a problem getting the information, but it's being able to filter the information and being able to use the information to allow you to make evidence-based and informed decisions about your life, okay? So all of that to say, the clue number 3 is that you are desiring to learn about your life disruption, and you are just hungry for that knowledge because you're trying to equip yourself, right? And then you allow God, you allow the Holy Spirit to prompt you, to help you move toward, the decision that is best for you. And I feel like that is all I have for the 3 clues. One other thing that I will say about breast cancer and getting breast cancer is that if that is your situation and you do find yourself in that situation, just know that you do have options. You do have options, and there are, despite, the research around poor care, there are phenomenal providers out there that will respond to your needs. There are amazing advocates, and you have just as much power when it comes to your treatment as the doctors. They are the experts, but you are the expert on yourself and on your body, and that applies to anything, right? Outside of breast cancer, it can be anything that is medical or otherwise that's disrupting your life and causing you to pause or pivot in a different direction. So just know that you have those options. And for myself personally, it was really important for me that I did more of a holistic kind of mix with Western medicine. And so while I did have surgery to remove my tumor, I had a tiny tumor, and I did opt to have surgery for that. But coming out of surgery, I opted to not take narcotics. I worked with a homeopathy practitioner, and I used holistic plant, herbs, remedies to allow my body to heal itself and to restore itself back to health. And I worked with an acupuncturist to help with some of my side effects. I did have radiation, so I worked with an acupuncture practitioner to help minimize some of those side effects. I also used some homeopathic or natural remedies for my skin after my surgery and after radiation, because I did have some burns on my skin from that. And so I used a salve, a holistic salve, to help heal my burns, and it turned it around within days. And so all of that to say that I also did lots of massage, lots of regular therapy, talk therapy, to talk through this life disruption with my therapist, to just help me process this and figure out what I needed to do, what I wanted to do moving forward, and reorient myself to this new life, right? So all of that to say that you have options, and you can choose a care plan that is best for you. And I want you to know that I am standing with you, and I am available if you have questions about this journey, or you want someone to just help you pinpoint what your choices are, because sometimes we don't know, and sometimes we don't even know the right questions to ask, and that may be you, right? So that is what we're here for at Mended Hope. We're here to support you through this journey, whatever that looks like, right? So if you're wanting to get connected, you can check out our site, mendedhope.org. Scroll down about midway, click the button to get started, or start here, and it will allow you to see some of our options for working with us. We also have a group coaching program that's actually going to be launching this fall. I had to pause it for a little while just because I just haven't had the bandwidth I'm still working through treatment. So we had to take a little bit of break, but we have reoriented some things, and we're super excited actually to be offering our group coaching option for those who may feel, more less put on the spot being in a group setting. So you can check that out as well. And if you know someone, if it's you, comment, let us know that this is resonating with you, or share this with somebody who has breast cancer, or maybe is moving through a life disruption and they're not really sure if they're making progress, right? And they need to know, what are some of the clues, that I'm moving forward. As high impact women, I know it's important to keep it moving because we got things to do, right? So make sure that you check out the clues and just assess yourself accordingly, right? Again, it's never about shame or blame. It's just about figuring out where you are and how far off you are from where you desire to be. Okay? And we are with you. God is with you. And we love y'all. So make sure to stay connected. And we'll check in again next Monday for our